everyone, welcome to this 45-minute yoga class. My name is Julie Schoen and I am the founder and a contributor on yogineology.com. So this class today, I called it, I think, an unexpected or kind of like a surprising yoga class. And so the reason I did that is because what I'm sharing today is something very different than what I normally do when I am filming a yoga class or teaching a yoga class. So I'm going to share kind of my personal practice, actually the one I did this morning right here with you. And the reason why I want to do that is I really want to inspire you to have your own home yoga practice. I think that is where a lot of the best work takes place, and when you really learn what your yoga is. So I've been practicing and teaching yoga for 10 years now, and it really wasn't until the last few months that I kind of had that aha moment that my yoga practice isn't like a competitive sport. It's not my time to like get in extra hours and see if I spend one more hour, can I do that pose and impress people or be able to teach people all these fancy things. That's not what it is. That's not sustainable. That isn't fun. You get hurt. What your home practice really is learning. The Judith Hansen-Lassiter, she's a great yoga teacher. She said, your home practice is really you discovering what is indigenous to yourself. And I just love that. And so over the past couple of months, my home practice has turned into from less of like a workout kind of thing, which is what it was. Now I run or hike or do something else for that. And it's turned into really like taking care of myself time, both mentally and physically and emotionally and energetically. And I just have felt so much better. I've come to kind of fall in love with yoga all over again. And so I really wanted to share this practice. We'll get to it here. I really wanted to share this practice just to encourage you to not feel like you don't know how to do a home practice or that what you're doing is wrong. A lot of stuff that I do in my home practice, I don't know the Sanskrit name for, or if there is one. I don't always hold things for the right amount of time. I sometimes forget what I've done on one side to the other side, and I'm okay with that because I'm trusting intuitively that this is what I need. So the practice that I'm going to share with you today is a 45-minute, very slow, gentle practice, because when I came to my mat this morning, that was my intention. It was, I need to be kind and I need to be gentle. And so that's what this practice kind of stems from. So I want you to go through it with me, kind of like you're in a like a music class learning a new song. But then from that, take that and learn how to kind of riff on it on your own. Hopefully you'll just be inspired and you'll see like, oh, that's what yoga teachers do at home. It's not anything crazy. It's, nice, and I can do that. So we're going to begin. We're going to start lying down on our stomachs. And you can either have the hands by your sides, palms face up, or I like to have my hands kind of stacked on top of each other, palms down. And then wherever you are, you want your legs to be relaxed. So that normally means bring your toes together, let the heels fall apart. And then you'll either let your forehead rest on your hands or let the forehead rest on the floor. You can start to relax your face. I always take a few just kind of exaggerated deep breaths, as almost like I'm walking through the gates to my practice. And then I let those deep breaths go and I just start to observe the natural breath and try not to change anything about it. I will oftentimes kind of start this meditation at the beginning of my practice, working from the outermost parts of this room and then to the innermost part. So as I'm here with my forehead down, I'm taking in my surroundings. I'm listening to any sounds, taking in any smells, taking in what it feels like physically, the floor, the blanket, or the mat against your skin. Just become very much aware. And then start to bring that awareness to your physical body, noticing how you're feeling today, if there's any areas that need special attention. I don't like to say work. We're not trying to improve things. We're just trying to bring attention to areas that maybe have been a little neglected. And then start to bring your awareness inside how you're feeling emotionally. You're feeling happy or sad or stressed or angry. And any of those things are fine. You can bring any of those things to your practice. Just do your best not to judge. Just acknowledge it. And just by simply giving it that attention and naming it, it's really a powerful way to make some progress with whatever you're feeling. And then I start to feel my belly moving against the floor. And just as you're here, you're taking in your physical surroundings, you're seeing how you feel physically, mentally, emotionally. Just see if a word or a couple words come to mind to you right now that could maybe be your intention for class. And then as you're ready with your next inhale, you're just going to slowly start to bring yourself up into Sphinx pose. So you want your elbows to come underneath the shoulders. You can spread the fingers nice and wide. You can kind of turn your head or take some circles with the neck. And as you move, start to feel the breath kind of hooking up with the movement. So each movement is very supported by your breath. Your breath is kind of telling your body when to move, and your movements are informing the breath. And then I like to do just like this little bit of a cat-cow action here. It's not much. I'm not really lifting my belly too much up off the ground. Then pushing into my forearms, drawing the shoulders forward, chin toward the chest, and then inhale, kind of scooping the heart forward, pulling the shoulders back. And this just helps me to link my breath even more with the movement. And then lift up off the elbows. You can come into a little bit of a cobra pose. Roll the shoulders back, inhale, and then here we'll flow. Exhale, nice and slow, lowering down. Inhale, bring yourself up. And try to kind of embody what your intention is here as you move. What do those words feel like? How are they represented physically? And then very much using the breath to guide you. As you exhale, you come down. As you inhale, you come up. Maybe 2 or 3 more rounds here. When you're ready on the next inhale, push up all the way to all fours. Coming into cat-cow right away, so just continuing with that movement we kind of suggested in the body as we were in Sphinx pose. Now coming into the more full expression of cat-cow, still being mindful of the breath. And then I always add in like a little bit more of a cylindrical shape to cat-cow. I find these little circles really therapeutic for my back. But also just a reminder that there really aren't any rules. It's kind of a freeing moment for me, right? To kind of color outside of the lines and to move just however feels right for me today. And I hope that you're doing the same thing. When you're ready, you'll step your right foot between the hands. You'll notice today I'm not on a yoga mat. I am on a blanket. A lot of times when I practice at home, I use a blanket just because it gives me a little bit more space, and because I tend to be doing a more gentle practice, that's just the time of life I'm in right now, then it kind of just reminds me of that. This isn't the yoga practice that I've been doing for the last 10 years. This is something special, something sacred. So here in this low lunge type of pose, I'm going to call in that cat-cow movement a little bit again. Just really doing what feels natural. So I'm not trying to, there's no checklist in my mind. It's just, oh, this would feel good. This would feel good. What about this? Go ahead and tuck your back toes under. Lift the back knee up and then walk your hands over to the left a little bit and then keep going with the cat-cow. And notice how just by pulling the chin in towards the chest and rounding the spine, a lot of times you can feel something totally different in the hips than you can when you're pulling the heart forward. Just stay very mindful of that. Let this yoga practice today just kind of be like a space of refuge, right? Your chance to check in. How are you doing? How are you doing? And I promise you'll feel so much better after. So move your hands back so they're in line with your shoulders. And then you're just going to take your right foot and just slide it underneath the left arm, coming onto the outer edge of the right foot and coming all the way down to the right hip. So this is a big IT band stretch, really getting into the outer kind of seam of the right leg. So it totally depends on your body. Sometimes staying up like this actually is deeper in the IT band than if I lean forward. Sometimes you have to move the foot up and down to kind of calibrate it to whatever you need. And I find myself lately coming into this little cat-cow movement just because I think, well, part of it is that I think it really keeps me connected to the breath. So it gives my mind, they say in like Zen meditation, right, the breath is like the back door to the mind. So if you just try to quiet the mind, it's really hard. It's like trying to break down the front door. But you can kind of sneak in through the back, let the breath kind of show you the way in. You could be all the way down lying flat if that feels good. So you're going to walk your left hand over to the left, staying on the forearm. Bend the left knee and reach back and find your foot. So you can kind of stay up here. That gives me more of a quad stretch. Or sometimes I'll roll all the way down onto my back and I'm lying on top of my arm. And this is the one that I love. It really opens up my side body a lot. It's a good quad stretch still. And it gets into some problem areas kind of in my lower back. It feels really, really nice. Again, I'm just finding the breath. Noticing any areas that are kind of fearful of this pose, right? So it's like just by bringing your awareness to it, it can quiet it down quite a bit. So you're going to keep the foot just like it is. Kind of roll your way back up. So I have my left heel outside of my left hip, and the knee joint is nice and closed. It's kind of like your Virasana or hero shape. Then I'm just going to turn my chest towards my extended leg, which is the right leg. And then again, I kind of do this cat-cow as I creep into a little bit of a forward fold. So I like doing this because it slows me down. So I don't immediately think like I have to go right into the deepest stretch. And I also find it's so different moving slow and adding these little actions in the chest. Like I can feel so much more in my side body. My low back feels better. And I discover little places that I wouldn't have stopped if I was just going right for the pose. And of course, if this is uncomfortable for the knee, you can totally flip the foot around and bring the sole of the foot towards your right thigh. And then you're going to walk the hands towards the center. You're going to pick yourself up and then come into a little bit of a stretch. You're getting into the inner part of the right thigh and the groin. And then I've been finding lately, so in addition to the cat-cow, these little pulses kind of up and down, like almost like you're hearing like a good song, right? And you're going up and down to it. I don't know if there's science behind it or not, but I feel like it does something energetically to my body. I always leave, if I don't do this in my practice, as of late, I feel a little like something didn't happen, like the magic didn't happen energetically. I'm not quite as calm. I'm not quite as centered. I get angrier more often. It feels like it does something on an emotional and energetic level. Then go ahead and pull the right foot in. Bring your big toes together, knees wide. Come into a wide child's pose, but I keep going through that little kind of pulsing up and down. I think the more movements like this that I do, I find my body just feels better as well. Like physically, it's starting to feel better. It likes these movements. So you can see if it works for you too. And then I kind of slow it down when it feels like I've come to a good spot. Bring the forehead down and come into this nice wide child's pose. I have been lately bringing my hands in prayer, taking them to the back of the neck. So as my hands are in prayer, I'm calling in my intention. I'm kind of invoking anything that I feel like I need right then. And I'll extend my arms out, walk them over to the left a little bit, and then take my right hand palm face up, thread it underneath the left arm, and bring my right ear down to the floor. And then take my left arm and either tuck it in the top of your pants or bring it all the way to your inner right thigh. This gets into the upper body a little more, adding a shoulder stretch. Inhale, bring yourself up. So keeping the toes together, sitting on my heels, knees are wide. And I'm going to start to bring myself down. So I've had issues with my SI joint, and this has really been helping with that pain a lot, this pose in particular. So my heels are like right underneath my sit bones. And you could stay like this, up on your arms. Sometimes you can come down to the forearms. Sometimes you can come all the way down. And just breathe. So this could feel intense. Intense is fine. We don't want tingling, and we don't want like really sharp pain or like an intense burning, probably means you went a little too far. Right now, my right quad is kind of talking to me. And so what I found mentally, what helps is if something is intense, but it's not so intense that I want to leave, I'll take my hand and I'll just bring it gently to the area that is really, kind of gripping. And I'll just kind of move my fingers around or go in like little circles or stroke that muscle or that area. What I find it's like taking your kid to go get shots, right? It's just like holding their hand through it, telling them it's going to be okay, it's going to be, it's going to be over soon. And the second I do this, I can feel that muscle respond in a good way. And then my brain also responds. It's like, oh, that's getting taken care of. Okay, I'll relax again. So it's a really kind of cool little trick that you can do, especially if you're going to be holding a pose a little bit longer or if something feels really intense. Just tell your body and your brain, you're here for it. And then rather than trying to sit up from this pose, I find it a lot easier and maybe a little more practical just to take the legs out, hug the knees into the chest. And then I oftentimes will come into happy baby from there, bringing my hands to the outer edges of the feet wide, and then just little rocks left and right. Bring the soles of your feet together. Start to straighten the legs up. Flex the toes, point and flex. Get a nice big stretch for the backs of the hamstrings. And then rock your way up to sit. So you're going to have the legs spread just a little ways apart from each other. We're going to come into what's in yin is called caterpillar pose, which I love. So rather than trying to keep your chest out and hinge from the hips, you're going to actually let your back round and just kind of drape over the legs. So this is a nice option if you have low back pain or you're just trying to release some pressure, some area through the spine. You'll still feel a little bit of a stretch in the hamstrings, but I immediately feel it in that kind of lower left quadrant of my back that I've been having issues with for years. And it feels so nice just to acknowledge that rather than to be like, oh, I have to have my chest forward and lean, because that's not getting to what I need, right? That's why a home practice is such a beautiful thing, because you really learn, like, if I do this, so like if you're in a yoga class and they say, put your chest forward and hinge from your hips, I can be like, no, I'm sticking with the rounded back, because this feels better. Go ahead and swing your legs around. So we're facing the other way now, coming back to all fours. Little bit of cat-cow action. We're going to try to do the same thing on the other side. When you're ready, left foot steps forward. Coming into a nice deep lunge pose or in yin, dragon. And then I love cat-cow here. I rock it all practice. Stay in touch with your breath. Kind of discover some hidden spots. You can pick up the back knee, tuck the foot, keep going. I've walked my hands over to the right a little bit more now, and that gives me a little more room in the chest. Kind of play with the cat-cow. You can even straighten the legs a little bit and then go deeper, which can feel really nice at times. When I practice like this, I can't help but smiling. It's so different than, a lot of the classes that maybe I would teach or what you typically expect from a yoga practice. But it just feels so good. And I can just feel my body and my mind and everything's like, yes, more of this. So you take the left leg, slide it underneath the right arm. So you're on the outer edge of the left leg, kind of lower down onto that outer left hip, and then play with that outer seam of your left leg. Right? Maybe you twist a little bit here. Actually just heard my back pop in a really good way. Or you could come all the way down or stay up, right? Going low doesn't necessarily mean you're getting deeper. So just see what feels right and good for you. And then if I at all feel like a rigidity coming back in, either physically or mentally, like let the head kind of bounce and bobble and let the chest move. Remind yourself this isn't that serious, right? I mean, it's an important practice. The fact of you getting on the mat and being dedicated to it and being disciplined to your practice, that's important. But then once you get to the mat and you've shown up and you're there, then it's like, man, what do you need today? And if that means lying on your back for 30 minutes or 10 minutes, that's a good yoga practice, right? There's nothing wrong with that. So you're going to take the right foot, bend it, reach back, and then I like to turn all the way onto my back. My arms underneath, it's getting a little bit of a stretch. To me, it doesn't feel uncomfortable. If it does for you, you could just let the hands go. It doesn't need to be there, right? We're basically kind of in like a wide half saddle pose or a wide half Supta Virasana type of pose. When you're ready, you're going to roll yourself up. I'm keeping my foot back in that position. It's comfortable for my knees, so it's okay to have the heel back right by my outer hip. I'm going to flex my toes, turn my chest, and then kind of creep into the forward fold with a little bit of cat-cow. And because I'm linking my movement with the breath, I can't hurry this, right? So it's inhale, exhale, and maybe go a little deeper. It's just a good reminder. Don't have to do things quickly, right? Come as deep as you need to or want to, or feel like, oh, there's a good stretch for me, and you're gonna hang there. Take in your surroundings again. Just be really, when I do that, I feel grateful and I feel really connected. And that helps me in my day after a practice like this to make better decisions, to be a little more patient, to have a better attitude when I take the time to look around and notice like, wow, this is a really beautiful place, or I'm so appreciative for having this time, or whatever it might be. Go ahead and start to walk your hands more towards the center, so line them up with your belly button, and then bring yourself up. So now my toes are flexing, my hips are up, walking the hands forward, and then it's like, you know, I don't know, Bob Marley or something came on the radio, and just this little bit of like, oh yeah, that's good feeling, pulsing up and down. And I get more movement by creating tents with my fingers, so being on the tips of my fingers, the pads of my fingers. And then when you're ready, transition into your wide child's pose, big toes together, knees apart. And then as I come down, I'm still kind of fluidly bringing that music to my practice until my body tells me like, I'm good. And my brain and my heart says I'm good. Then I'll let it all just kind of melt down, palms of the hands together. Right hand can tuck in your waistband or all the way around to your left thigh. inhale, start to bring yourself up. So coming into that variation of Supta Virasana. So sitting on the heels, big toes still touching, heart lifts up, shoulders back. Maybe there's good for you. Maybe down to the forearms is good. Or maybe sliding all the way down onto your back is good. Try the finger trick if anything's talking to you. Just acknowledge it even physically with that little bit of like touching on maybe your quads or your thighs. See if that can help you just evoke a little bit more sense of peace and an ability to stay just even a second longer. When you're ready to come out of the pose, I suggest kind of scooching the feet out, lying flat on the back, hugging the knees into the chest, or coming into happy baby, just a really mild happy baby, so you're not really pulling, just more the shape. And then this morning, I gave my feet a little massage here, so if that seems like a nice thing to do for yourself, you could bring the feet together if that makes it a little easier. I always like to try to do something nice for my feet every day. It may not look like I try, but I do. Little lotion or a little massage. Stretching them out. Go ahead and rock your way up. Take the feet a little wide. Come into the caterpillar pose. So chin in towards the chest, round the back. And then just kind of flop forward. And if your head is low enough, I'd recommend putting your hands on your head. Our necks are just strained a lot forward. Like this, just with like driving and sitting at a computer or even like using our phone. So giving the neck some support here can be really therapeutic. Ready, inhale, bring yourself up. We're going to lie down on our back, setting up for a bridge pose or a supported bridge pose. So you'll have your heels in line with your hips and your ankles right underneath your knees. Unless you have knee issues, then scoot your feet forward a little bit more. So reach the arms up and then draw the elbows down by your ribs, placing the backs of the arms down on the floor. Push through the inner edges of the feet. Start to lift the hips up. Keep pushing through the inner edges of the feet as you continue to lift the hips up. Walk your elbows under yourself. And then if you can you get your hands to go right on your low back? Just to kind of support the hips. You can relax the legs. That doesn't mean let them fall out. You're still pushing through like the big toe mound. You can get up a little higher here. Just a nice way to remind yourself that you're supported. Great pose for creating space. And then keeping the hands there, if you wanted to, you could maybe play with lifting a foot up. Doing the other side.
Sometimes you can lift up both feet from here. I don't think that's happening for me today. You could lower down and roll up into a shoulder stand if you wanted. It doesn't have to be a full-on, big-time shoulder stand either. You always want the feet to be active, though. In a pose like this, it just helps to draw energy kind of through the nadis or the channels or meridians or whatever you like to think of them as. And unless I've set up shoulder stand really well with a lot of blankets under my neck, I don't stay long because I'll get sore the next day, kind of in my upper vertebra, so I let that go. You can take your feet wide, let the knees fall together. I opted for windshield wipers, then kind of turn that into a twist. But at the end of practice, I always feel like how our body responds to the poses are so individual that if there's something that is just like, why isn't she doing this? Then do that. Because you know innately so much better than I do what you need to do next. So if a twist sounds good, just come into a super simple twist or a fancy twist, or do whatever is calling you right now. I'm getting ready to change sides to my other side for the twist, so you could too, or keep doing what you're doing. So we're going to head into Savasana next, corpse pose. So just because it's more convenient, I'm going to lie down on my back, although I do love taking Savasana on my stomach like we started class today. So if that was really nice for you, then it doesn't take too much effort to roll over, so you could do that. And then just play for a moment, setting up your body, see what feels good. I like to take my legs pretty wide apart, let my toes fall out. And then I've been taking my arms more into kind of like a goalpost shape, palms face up. I feel like it tucks my shoulder blades under me a little more and just feels expansive and empowering, and I've liked that lately. Don't spend too long setting up Shavasana. You can get kind of precious about it sometimes. Don't worry. Once you find a comfortable spot, just let it go. Close your eyes. And then we'll approach this brief meditation the opposite way we did the beginning. So start on the emotional level, start on the spiritual, kind of subtle body level. How are you feeling? No judgment, be honest. Just like you're listing off things that you need to go buy at the grocery store. There's no significant weight behind any of the labels you are giving. What's important is that you are giving them labels. And then check in physically. How do you feel? Label any specific body parts that have been changed through this practice, whether for better or for worse. Label it. And start to feel yourself resting physically on your mat or your blanket or the floor. Begin to notice what it feels like to have your skin in contact with your surroundings. Notice if you are warm or cold, or if part of you is warm or part of you is cold. Notice any sounds. Invite them all in to your practice. Notice any smells. Invite those in as well. And just take rest knowing that you are an integral part to this tapestry of the universe. And that without you, things would fall apart. And that you are very much necessary, very much needed. And because of that, you are so loved and so supported. You are significant and powerful. And hopefully in resting in that, you can find a nice sense of peace right now. So if you are able to stay longer in Savasana, I invite you to do that. That would be such a wise thing to do. You can't get too long of a Savasana ever. So if you are able to stay a little bit longer, just listen to my voice as I lead people out and invite that into your Savasana. If you need to stay within that 45-minute kind of mark, start to bring some movements back to the body, making your way slowly and mindfully up into a seated position, whatever comfortable seat you'd like to take. Let the eyes stay closed. Sit up nice and tall. And just notice, observe. How was that practice for you today? Was it unexpected? Did you like it? Then just think for a moment, why do you do yoga? What is it for? And bring your hands together at your heart. Bow your head. Call in that intention you set at the beginning of class. Then call in maybe just that brief flash of genius that came to you just then when I asked you, why do you do yoga? See if there can be some overlap between those two. And right there where that overlap is, that's where your practice is. That is what you need, what is native to you right now. And it changes and it evolves, but accept where you are and let your practice support you. And I just hope and hope and hope and pray that you will invite this type of home practice to your day-to-day routine. I have seen such a big shift in my life and how I feel and how I just live because of it. And I've only been practicing with this intention in mind for maybe 60 days. So it doesn't take that long for some big things to happen. So call that in. May you be brave enough and strong enough and intelligent enough to take care of yourself and to let the yoga practice take care of you. Thank you so much for joining me today. Namaste.